let's get the show on the road. Okay, everyone, welcome to All Elite Racing Division 1. We are at Hungary today. This is the first race of the new season, so we'll be looking to have a relatively good idea to see which drivers have adapted to the Formula 124 game a bit better than others. Maybe get an early look at maybe the driver championship contenders, and then obviously which teams stand the best chance for the constructors as well. So this will be an interesting race here at the Hungary ring. So if we go through the grid lineup, it's a really stacked lineup, bunch of talented drivers, so it's gonna be interesting to see. I mean, we've got obviously first on the table we've got F1 Pro. He's in the McLaren this season. He'll be joined with a co-owner of All Elite Racing, Tyler. He'll also be in the McLaren, so those two will be the teammates, and I also think that will be a lineup to look out for the constructors this season. Both drivers very talented, very similar to Pace. F1 Pro has obviously mentioned that this is maybe one of his favorite tracks, so gonna have a look at him. A few people out on track already, so got Boss Membrane in the Kick Sauber. His teammate will be MJB, who's also currently on an outlap, and then we've got Nellis. Is it Nellis? Nels? In the Haas with his teammate Jocks for the season, so also a relatively good lineup there. And then we've got James Askew and Lord Genzi in the Ferraris, so also a very balanced team, if I can put it that way. We've got Craigleton, so Craigleton is the defending champion of this division, so he'll be looking to defend his title in the Mercedes with his teammate Zach Zeek. So I think on paper that might be one of the strongest constructors teams this season, as F1 Pro has exceeding track limits there, so he'll have to do that lap all over again. And then we've got, let's see, Will Askew. So Will Askew will be my teammate. I'm Vati. He'll be my teammate for Fridays on the podium division of the AER. So I'll definitely be rooting for Will in the Racing Bull to have a cracker here. And then his teammates also Oliver Whittleston, also very promising, talented driver. He's got the ability to just excel at certain tracks where you just ask yourself the question, how does he put up those lap times that he's putting up? So a very good team there in the Racing Bulls. And then we've got Mark. Mark will be paired up with Ryan this season in the Alpines. And then we've got AN54 in the Aston Martin, and he'll be joined by Relics, also a very strong lineup. So the Aston Martins, the Mercedes, definitely the two teams to look out for this season's Division 1. And then, as I've mentioned, Relics also in the Aston Martin, and then we've got Thomas and Dunsby in the Red Bulls. So that will be the pairing for the Red Bulls this season, so also very good pairing. I mean, everybody has good partnerships over here. And then the last team that I haven't gone through here is the Williams in Ellis and Apex. So those two will also be looking to get a good start to the season and this qualifying session. So as I've been chatting about the drivers and the teams, we've already got a few laps set up, and we can already see their relics in the Aston Martin with a 1:14.1 very quick time here on the Hungary ring. So we're still on board here with F1 Pro, so let's see what time he could make up there, as Tomas from the Red Bull sets up the fastest lap so far of the session, and then F1 Pro with a 1:15.4. Definitely got some time in there for the McLaren driver, as we are on board here with Tyler. I seem like he might be on his out flying lap. No, it doesn't seem like that. Let's just maybe have a look. No, definitely not. So he's jumped out of there, but he's in 5th place for the time being. As we jump over to Zach Zeek, as he is on his out lap. Maybe let's jump to Craigleton first, see what he's capable of. He is on his flying lap and he sets a 1:14.4. So just a mention there, Craigleton has mentioned that he is out of practice, if I can put it that way. So what a way to show you're out of practice by taking the P3 position there. So kudos to Craigleton in the Mercedes. We'll ask you with a 1:14.6, very promising time there from the Racing Bull. As we jump on board with Zach Zeek, Craigleton's teammate, to see what he might pull off here. Let's drive a lap here with Zach Zeek, as he's making a few swirls here on the home straight. Not quite sure if he's maybe trying to warm up some tires, maybe gonna take another out lap. It does seem like he's got away quite slow so far, but let's just have a look, drive on board, see whether it is actually a commitment to the lap. It does seem like he's not on the flying lap at the moment. So yeah, for the time being, most drivers are in the pits already. We're on board here with Apex Glide in the Williams on a 1:15.3. So we'll see what his sector 2 time is compared to first lap 2, if he's on his screen or not. Definitely not. 7 seconds. I mean, yeah. Okay, so just a roundup on the grid for, or the standings at least, for the short qualifying session. Just a reminder that we will be racing 50% race distance and only a short qualifying. So shortly after this race, or this qualifying session at least, we'll have the full race, or the 50% race at least, where we'll be battling it out to see who takes gold at the Hungary ring. So just a roundup on the qualifying session so far. We've got the fastest lap of a 1:14.0. I won't be surprised if the fastest lap at the end of the session dips just below 1:14. So very good lap set there by Tomas in the Red Bull, and closely followed by Relics and Craigleton. Craigleton just a few tenths off there, but he definitely has the ability to pull off a wonderful lap. As we see here the tire compounds, we see that F1 Pro is on mediums. I'm not quite sure whether that is the case. He is on mediums. Might be taking a practice lap here to see how to come to grips with the track and see where he can gain the most time when he puts on a new set of softs. As we are on board here with Will Askew, he is 100th of a second down on his first lap, but there's obviously some time and he just left it uh, out of that corner, so he'll need to do down another lap of himself there. Zach Zieg recorded a 1:14.7. I think he'll be pretty satisfied with that. And F1 Pro just retired out of nowhere, not quite sure what happened there. It does seem like he might have written off his car, so that will be a DNF for F1 Pro, which is sad because he really loves this track. As we are on board here with Oliver Whittleston in the Racing Bull. Let's see what he can come up with as he goes into the final sector of the track. We'll see his time difference compared to his first lap, which was a 1:14.8, 2 seconds slower, so that will definitely not do it for Oliver, so he'll need to try again, see if he can maybe improve on that P7 position. As we're on board here with Zach Zieg, and he goes into the pit lane. AN54, but let's see what possibly is going on here. Maybe on a low 115 lap here, and no, got a 1:14.7, so that's a relatively good lap from the Aston Martins. The Aston Martin sitting pretty at the moment. To make mention of the fact that James, well, at least Bossman Range just recorded his time, but Dunsby hasn't recorded a lap yet, so we'll have to see what Dunsby can do with the time remaining, as there's only 6.5 minutes more or less left of the session, so Dunsby's got his work cut out for him because his opportunities are getting less, and if he doesn't get it neck on, then he's gonna have trouble catching the field. Lots of talented, awesome drivers at the top there. I mean, that top 10 is absolutely stacked with talented drivers, and then you've got the likes of Lord Jinsey and Boss Membrane and even Ryan in the Alpine. All very promising drivers that also have the capabilities of competing for the top 10 positions. We are on board here with Dunsby to see what he can cook up for us in this qualifying session, which is only 6 minutes left. I see now that I've missed the fastest lap of the race, which is Tomas with a 1:13.7, so definitely spot on with my prediction there. I definitely thought someone will be dipping below that 1:14. I will not put it past Relics and Craigleton to dip below that 1:14 mark as well, so the pole position will be a tough battle, but we'll have to see. It does seem like, by the looks of things, that the Aston Martins and the Mercedes are having a great time. All depends on Dunsby, if he can put his neck out for on behalf of the Red Bulls, saying, listen, we're here as well. It does look like he messed up in the final sector, so this time will not be fast, but at least Dunsby will be on the board. That will give him just some comfortability to know that he'll actually have a time to chase in his final attempt. Everybody in the pit lane, it does seem like N54 might be on his flying lap as he's 2 tenths down, so he'll be looking to improve on that 1:14.7. If everything goes well, he might pop his neck into the top 3 there, and slower actually, so he's lost a lot of time there at the 6.3, so AM54 will be relatively kicking himself, if I can put it like that. And we drive on board with Apex Clyde as he starts his first, or sorry, not his first, his flying lap at least. So we'll be driving on board here with him, as there's not much traffic out on track at the moment. Most people on their out laps at the moment, so we'll be driving on board here with Apex. Let's see if he can maybe nip a few tenths. He's already 7 thousandths of a second down, which is relatively close to his first sector time. So he'll definitely be looking to drop a few tenths before the end of this lap so that he can maybe stick his neck a bit higher up in the top 10 that he's currently at. As you can see with the telemetrics there, Tomas with a 113.7 for almost 4 tenths down his relics in there as Martin, so he'll definitely be looking to come out with a vengeance here, as Apex Glide does improve on his time with about 1.5 tenths, so he pops his neck above AER Tyler. Tyler will definitely not be liking that, so Tyler will look at the opportunity in his next attempt to gain some time, as we might be on board here with Oliver, and it does look like he might take his flying lap now, and he slows down, wants perfect exit here so that he can start off his lap. So on board with Oliver in the Racing Bull, he'll be looking to at least cut to 3 tenths, 4 tenths faster than his lap at the moment. As he's looking for those fast corner there, pretty much flat out, so yeah, you need to focus on the traction control there, because you might spin off there at the middle corner. Also a very tricky corner at the Hungary there, and it does look like Oliver might be making some time up on his first lap. We'll see now when he crosses the line for the sector 2 time, and he is 2 tenths down. So that looks promising for Oliver. That might put him up at P5 there with his teammate in the form of Will. So we'll have a good look here if Oliver can maybe improve on his time. What will it be? Yes, he is pretty much 300ths of a second slower than his teammate in Will, as we're on board with him now. Relix has done a 113.8, and he's already 3 tenths down on his first sector time. Doesn't seem like that's the case, and that might be his previous lap. So we're on board here with Craig Hilton, 4 seconds down. He'll look to make the finish line before the end of the session, which might be possible, given no traffic around him. So there's a possibility here for Craig Hilton to move up the ranks here. So provisionally we've got Tomas on a 113.7, Relics on a 113.8, and Craig Hilton on a 114.3, battling for pole position of these 3 guys. Muck might have a say here, as Muck is currently not much quicker on his second out lap, or flying lap at least, so he'll be looking to improve. Will Askew improving with a 114.5, so the Racing Bulls will be very happy to start at the front of the grid as they are at the moment, as we are on board here with Thomas, as he is 600ths of a second down on his fastest lap at the moment. Can he maybe score a 10th or 2 on this final sector? And he does, where he has scored another additional 10th, so he is 400ths of a second faster now. So if things keep on going like they are right now, Thomas will be securing the pole position unless Craig Hilton has a say about it, as Mark has increased his best time to a 114.1, and Tyler in the McLaren with a 114.2, Thomas with a 113.6. All gonna depend on the Craig Hilton right now. Let's see what Craig Hilton can do, and he pips his neck above Tyler in the McLaren. So spoke too soon there, commentator's curse I believe, with the Racing Bulls being pushed down to 6th and 8th with 3 good laps with Muck, Craig Hilton and Tyler. Well, Askew will be definitely not be popping into the top 5 there as he clocks 128. So everybody seems to be done and dusted. And to take a quick summary of this qualifying session, it's Tomas that takes pole position with a wonderful 113.6. It looks like this Red Bull definitely has the pace on this track. And then we've got Relics in second with a 113.8 and Muck in the Alpine with a 114.1. Craigleton just missing out on that third position, but he'll be happy with a second row start. It's gonna be a very frantic start going into turn 1, so we're gonna have to be out of trouble at least. So that's a wrap. Boss Main Brain just joining in on the commentary there. Good to see him. So that's a wrap for qualifying for round 1 in Hungary for the Division 1. It's Tomas in the Red Bull taking pole position, and then we've got Relics and Muck rounding off the top 3 there. We'll just be looking to see if we can maybe mute Boss Main Brain in this particular stream. Yes, we can. Nothing personal against Boss Main Brain, wonderful guy, so just don't want him to be intervening with the commentary. Which, by the way, there's no co-coms today. It will be myself and myself only, but don't you worry. I'll cover everything as much as I possibly can with the best commentary that we possibly can. So as we wait for the players to, as we look for the players to compile their strategies and select their strategy for the tires, we'll have a look here. Craigleton has made a mention earlier on that the mediums do suffer a bit in these conditions, so I will be expecting a few guys maybe jumping on hards to start with and to see what's going on further. Okay, so there's a relatively good combination and mix for the tire compounds as we maybe just have a look at the tire strategies at the moment. So as you can see there, mixed feelings and combinations right throughout the grid. Nobody on the soft tire, which is probably the best option at the moment. So just to take you through the grid before we start off and say lights off. We've got Tomas in the Red Bull with a wonderful qualifying session. He's on the medium tire, and so is his, so to say, rival for this race, Relics in the Aston Martin, as he's also on the medium. And then we've got Mark Craigleton and Tyler on the hard, and then Will and Zach in the Racing Bull and Mercedes respectively, both on medium tires. And then we've got Oliver and AIM54 in hard tires, Lord Genzi on the mediums, Apex Jocks and Boss Main Brain on the hard tires, Nels, F1 Pro and MJB on the medium, Alice and the Williams will be on the hards, and then the remainder of the grid, Ryan, James and Dunsby in the medium tires. This is going to be a very interesting race, everybody. I'm looking forward to be commentating for you today as we wait for the grid to form up. There is a relatively big gap there between, I am assuming, is Oliver Wurtelstan and the rest of the people behind him as he spins out on the grid. Might just be a silly moment for him. Maybe just to pop his neck out in the comms, just to say, listen, you'll be seeing a lot of me today. as we will be looking at an isometric view on the track to see how the start is going. And lights is out and Tomas gets away, but it looks like Relix has got the better start here, so he might be looking to just push for that inside line. And it does look like that Relix will be overtaking Tomas for that first position, but Tomas has got the better exit there as he regains the first position there. It doesn't seem like there's any drama at the back at the current moment, and there, just as I've said it, it is AN54 spinning out onto that very difficult corner. He spins out, so he'll be dropping, and Craigleton has also dropped to 20th place. I'm not quite sure what happened there, and AN54 has gone into the wall. Craigleton, I'm not quite sure what happened to Craigleton, but that's a big mistake from the Mercedes driver, as he started in 3rd position, I believe, and he is down to 19th position, so that's not a greatest start for the Mercedes and the Mercedes team as well. But Tyler is on a roll at the moment, as he's taken P3 from Muck in the Alpine, so he'll be looking to chase the front leaders at the moment. I wanted to say a relatively clean start to the race, but I cannot say that for sure. Unfortunately, with N54 just having a big spin there, it looks like he might have had wing damage as he makes his way to the pits. And Craigleton, something happened to the Mercedes driver. Apologize not for capturing that moment, as we already have a good battle in our hands here with Tomas and Relix fighting for P1 position here, as Tomas sets the fastest sector 1 time for the time being. So Relix is on his neck at the moment, just forming a slightly big gap between him and Tyler in the McLaren there, with Muck looking for the opportunity to maybe overtake the McLaren driver here. But Oliver is also hot on the tail of Muck at the moment, and Zach Zeek, it's a very close contest up until from 3rd position, I would say, up until 9th at least. Everybody driving single file, no side to side battles as yet. As we just jump back on board here with Relix, as he looks to maybe regain his P1 position that he has taken into the turn 1, but due to a better exit from the Red Bull driver, he has lost that position again, putting him back into P2 as he has started, as we might see some action here between the Kicktaubers, with MJB looking to maybe overtake his teammate. And it looks like Ellis, something has happened to Ellis. Not quite sure what has happened to the Williams driver, but that has forced a safety car, and that also gives the opportunity for N54 to take a cheap pit stop, just to make up for that big mistake that he has made. But Ellis Phillips has crashed out of this race, I believe, so he'll be ending with a DNF, so 19 valid drivers left in this race, with Relix in 2nd position and Tomas in 1st. As we wait basically for the grid to reform itself. So let's take a look at the position changes, see what big things have happened. So as I've mentioned, Craigleton and AN54 with 2 big mistakes at the start of this lap, or start of this race at least, dropping 14 positions, Craigleton, and AN54 dropping 10. The biggest gainers in this race at the moment is F1 Pro in the McLaren, jumping 7 spaces, and then Dunsby as well in the Red Bull. So these 2 drivers will be relatively happy. Will is in the pits at the moment, so he's dropped 9 places. That might only be due to the pit pit stop that he has made, so he has given up track position, but might he gain the advantage of fresher tyres? So no out and out constructors dominating this race at the current moment. We've got our pieces of drivers at each team at the top of this leaderboard. At the current moment, as things stand, it does look like the McLarens do have the upper hand at the moment, but we do have 32 more laps to go after this race, so a lot can happen. We'll have to see. While we are on this formation lap, I would like to express my gratitude to the owners of All Elite Racing for providing me with the opportunity to broadcast and stream this wonderful race for them. We'll be looking to grow the league as the season goes on, making All Elite Racing League one of the leagues to watch out for in the world. We are still behind the safety car. Will probably be another lap while N54 is catching the safety car queue. And I must say it's a relatively difficult job to cover comms on Formula 1 when you do not have your co-commentator with you. So it's definitely a struggle. It's difficult to capture all of the action going around on track. I mean, we've got so many good drivers with close battling. It's nearly impossible to capture each moment of this race, but we will be doing our best to make this stream for you as pleasurable as possible. So what is the situation gonna be like once the restart goes? There's not much straight to work with going into turn 1, so I think Tomas might be taking the restart up until the finish line as we wait for confirmation from the safety car whether it will be ending this lap. I'm assuming so, as all the drivers have caught up. Regleton suddenly in last position, so not quite sure whether he might have had a spin, and the safety car will definitely be in this lap. As we take a look here, it's actually quite annoying, the spectator menu. It's not something ideal. Quite sure how to hide it, to be honest. As they take the restart, Tomas is all over the place, but he does get a good exit and he does manage to stay clear of Relics and Tyler, looking for the opportunity to make a dive there on Relics, just too far behind as Muck, Oliver Whittleston, Zach Zeke and F1 Pro all battling for the perfect restart. Zach Zeke is looking for the opportunity there on the outside, not quite making it, but it does look like Muck is taking his opportunity to overtake Oliver. Oliver just staying ahead of the Alpine driver. So this is a good battle going on here between 4th up until at least 8th position here, as all the drivers are relatively on top of each other. As you can see there, Fast Membrane receiving a 3-second time penalty for track limits, and the track limits are quite difficult on this track, so you're gonna have to be very focused throughout the lap, and N54 also getting a penalty for himself. He we drive on board here with Oliver. Mark just a bit too far behind there. Oliver just losing a bit of touch to the top 3 there. And losing his car there, that might be a costly mistake, as Mark takes the opportunity and the advantage there to overtake him on the outside, but well saved for Oliver. That could have ended very badly. It could have gone into the wall, and that could have been his race over. So great save there from Oliver, but not ideal, as he loses his P4 position to Muck in the Alpine. But he will be looking to capitalize on that overtake moment and see if he can re-overtake for P4 position. He would like to put his head into the battle there for top 3. So as he makes a bit of a gap there to Zach Zeek with F1 Pro just close behind, as Oliver is also looking for maybe the inside line there, not quite making it, but F1 Pro is quickly gonna make this, instead of a 2-man race, or maybe a 8-man race, because there's a lot of drivers queuing up behind F1 Pro. As Mark loses a bit of touch to the top 3, Oliver will be looking to overtake here, but it will not be enough. Maybe we will go for the lunge, and he does, and it's a wonderful overtake, but it does look like Mark takes the inside out route there, and he does regain his P4 position. But Oliver coming back onto the inside. Great side by side racing here between the two drivers. Will take the apex here, and it is the Alpine, as he still remains in 4th position. So wonderful battle between these two drivers. Zach Zeek might be looking for the opportunity to maybe capitalize on any mistakes that these two might make while they are battling so hard. This battle here in front of Zach Zeek will definitely make or break the position changes from him up until at least 9th position. So it's gonna be an interesting battle to keep an eye on, as we maybe just move to Tyler, as he does look like he's not losing touch to the top 2 drivers. So a wonderful drive here from the McLaren. We have to just make note of the fact that there is a driver of the day point available and up for grabs. So the driver of the day will basically depend on the commentator's view on how the race has went, which driver has done as much as humanly possible to make the best out of the situations given to them. So as Tyler just moves off the track there, so he might have gotten a warning there. So Tyler will need to be careful. It's going to be a difficult task to stay in touch with these two drivers, the Red Bull and the Aston Martin. So he'll need to stay focused throughout and see whether he can maybe capitalize on any opportunities for these two in front of him, as Oliver has made the opportunity there to overtake the Alpine, and Tyler, just as I've said, the focus had to stay there for the McLaren driver, as he receives a 3-second time penalty. So on board here with Oliver, as Muck is not enjoying the backside of this Racing Bull, so he'll be looking for any opportunity given to him in the next few laps to maybe overtake the Racing Bull again. But Oliver's got his sights on top 3 right now, with Tyler having a 3-second penalty, which ultimately puts Oliver in P3 at the current moment. It's unfortunate for Nels there in the Haas, as he has noted that he has lost access to the game, where the lobby just kicked him for no reason, and as he joined back into the race, he's been given a DNF. So unfortunate for the Haas driver, as F1 Pro in the McLaren has received the 3-second time penalty. So this battle here in front is starting to get close now, as these drivers stay within 5/10 of each other. So it's going to be interesting to see what develops from this situation. F1 Pro and Boss Membrane. They'll definitely be looking to remain focused for the duration of this race, because at this current moment they find themselves out of the top 10. As Boss Membrane is taking the slipstream here from F1 Pro, looking to go from into the outside for turn 1, and F1 Pro remains on the inside line, but it will be a better exit for Boss Membrane, so he'll be looking for the opportunity to go onto the inside, and he makes it an opportunity to overtake, and he does, with some contact with the McLaren driver. So we've got Dunsby in the pits. So is he looking for a different tyre strategy, or does he maybe have some damage onto his car? But great overtake there from Boss Membrane, so he finds himself in P7 at this current moment. Craigleton doing an absolutely wonderful job from absolutely at the back, gaining himself back into P10, so it's a wonderful recovery from the Mercedes, but it is not the top 3 that he's hoping for. But as things stand, with the penalties applying to the above drivers, it might be an opportunity for Craigleton to capitalize, as he takes the inside of Lord Genzi to overtake, and he remains on the outside. Great side by side battling there between the two drivers. I'm relatively negative about the fact that, oh, there you go, oh, silly me, just had to press X and it's over with. So okay, so we are with Zach Zeke. I apologize, not Zach Zeke, it's still Craigleton. Sorry for mixing up the two Mercedes drivers. Craigleton's looking for the opportunity now to make a lunge on F1 Pro. We have missed the overtake from Tyler onto Relix, so Tyler moves himself up into P2 position, but do remember that he's got a 3-second time penalty, so Tyler will need to make the best of it to overtake Tomas, as F1 Pro just backs out for Craigleton, probably assuming that his battle's not with Craigleton, the Mercedes driver, as Tomas and Relix pit with Tyler in front. So this will be interesting. So they will be looking for the undercut here. So Tyler will maybe be forced to take his pit stop with this current lap, but it does not lose too much time to the other two drivers. So wonderful strategy from the Red Bull and the Aston Martin. They do find themselves relatively down the order, but the only saving grace for Tyler at this current moment will be the traffic that these two might face with their outlap after the pit stop. So Tyler might be looking to go into the pits, as Oliver and Mark is onto his tail at the moment. So this is not a dead set opportunity for Tyler to be in the podium positions for this race. It's a clear statement from the Racing Bull and the Alpine that they're also in the fight for the podium positions, as it does look like Relic and Thomas has relatively clean space in front of them to make it a wonderful outlap as Tyler stays out. Interesting decision there from the McLaren driver, as he remains in front with a 3-second time penalty, as does the Boss Membrane and Mach. As we're on board here with Jocks, also looking for an opportunity here to overtake F1 Pro, maybe making the lunge there, no, but it's locking up the brakes for F1 Pro, so a good dummy there for Jocks, as F1 Pro loses control of his car and Jocks jumps himself up to P7. Wonderful stuff there from the Haas driver, looking to redeem the mistake from Nels to gain as much points as possible for the Haas team, as he is on the tail of Zach Zeke. Craigleton now on the prowl here to get himself back into those podium positions where he belongs. Shout out to the helmet that Craigleton's wearing, really similar to the one that I'm wearing, but I do think it is the template design that the game has offered upon purchase of this game. So Craigleton will be looking here for the better exit between the two to gain the most advantage as possible for this DRS, and there will be an opportunity going into turn 1. Boss Membrane defends the inside line. Craigleton's got too much straight line speed as he overtakes him on the outside. Good traction, making him overtake the Kick Sauber, and he moves himself back into 4th position. So wonderful flight back from Craigleton. We're on board here with Oliver. Oliver having a wonderful race here. We'll be looking to overtake Tyler. He is currently in P1 position with the time penalty given to Tyler, so Oliver will not feel too much pressure to overtake Tyler here, but he does have the likes of Muck in the Alpine that will also be dipping his nose into the conversation. At this current moment, Tomas and AN5 finding themselves in difficult positions as they've got some traffic, so this might have been a good call here from Tyler to stay out. AN54 also gets a time penalty. I reckon that might be his second one. Remember, just look at the penalties. That is 6 seconds for the Aston Martin driver, as we've got F1 Pro and Lord Jinsey in the pit lane at the current moment. So Oliver and Muck both looking to gain on Tyler, as it looks like that Tyler might be struggling for some grip now. Let's just jump on board here to see maybe if he is losing a bit of pace, or is he braking a bit earlier to compensate for the lack of tyre wear. It is 16 laps onto these hard tyres, so they do at least for, I want to say, 22-23 laps. So Tyler bringing out the most of these tyres at the current moment, as Oliver has made a mistake there on the corner exit with Muck maybe capitalizing on this opportunity. So will Muck have the DRS to maybe make the lunge there? But no, the DRS that has been given to Oliver has given him the opportunity to defend from the Alpine driver. So wonderful racing here, everybody. We do have Ellis in the Williams that is retired quite early on in this race. And it is AN54 who has retired from this section. Let's just maybe see if we can see him alongside track here. And it does look like did he retire in the pit lane? It does seem like that might be the situation. It does look like he might have retired himself in the pit lane there. Not quite sure what happened to AN54 there, so he has retired from the race. So another driver out of the mix, as this top 3 battle is getting really close now, as all 3 drivers are within 3/10 of each other. Oliver will be looking for the opportunity to overtake Tyler here on the outside. Tyler defending the inside. Oliver going for the inside out route, as they both get relatively equal traction exit there out of the corner. So that definitely helps Tyler to defend his position, but Oliver is on an absolute free at the moment, as we did receive communication here from AN54. I'm retiring, my car is a mess because I couldn't get anything sorted at the start. looking forward to next week. So unfortunate there, AIM54 just uncomfortable with maybe the setup of his car, maybe with the damage that he has picked up at the start of the race, but unfortunate for the Aston Martin as we've got our third DNF of the race. So Oliver still on the prowl to overtake the McLaren driver, as we've got another 3-second time penalty for Jocks in the Haas. He's been having a great drive so far. That the Haas driver, Boss Membrane, also worth the shout for maybe a driver of the day opportunity. Got so many contenders for the driver of the day, as Oliver was looking for that inside, but just too far behind the McLaren driver. I feel like though it is my responsibility to support my teammate on the podium division, Will Askew in the Racing Bull, as he is defending P9 position from Apex. As Apex is within DRS time of Will at the current moment. Zach Zeek will also be looking to increase the points for the Mercedes team so that they can say, listen, we're probably one of the best constructors on the grid at the current moment. As we do have Tomas and Relix catching themselves back up to the front positions, with Relix having the advantage at the current moment. So it does want to tell me that Relix either did make the overtake on the out lap, or Relix has had the better pit exit. So we're on board here with Thomas, but we might be missing out here on Oliver with the opportunity to maybe overtake Tyler, and Mark looking for the opportunity on the mistake of Oliver. As Oliver maybe looks for the inside, no, definitely not. I haven't been part of this league for too long, but if I know Oliver by the way he's been racing, he's a very conservative driver, very focused driver, not negligent at all, and he gives his fair opportunity when the time arises. So Oliver in the Racing Bull still on the hunt for that P1 position, still alternately is in P1. So that might be the reason why he's not taking these half risky moves to overtake Tyler, as he does sit pretty in at the current moment. So just to take us through the grid at the moment, we've got Boss Membrane in 5th there, good battle between Relix and Thomas. These two are basically battling for P1 and P2, with the drivers above them not pitting so far, but we do have Boss Membrane in the pits right now. So Relix and Thomas moving up in 5th and 6th respectively. We've got a caution in sector 3, and it does look like F1 Pro has made a mistake there as he spun off. He is the master of spin, everybody, so 13th position for F1 Pro as he has made a mistake there. Very close battle between the top 3 at the current moment. It's absolutely fantastic to see. We've got a wonderful battle between, it does look like it might be Jocks and Will Askew here, as MJB receives a 3-second time penalty. F1 Pro has made a trip to the pit lane. So will this be a pit for damage, or will this be a pit for just basically saying, listen, I'm over these tires, I need to take my opportunity to pit, as we want to take the opportunity just to maybe see how many stops everybody has made. So F1 Pro has made his 2nd stop already, so that might have been a pit stop for tire strategy, or even damage. But it does look like Tyler has lost his position, so Oliver is in 1st position at the current moment. So he has been in 1st for quite some while, but he has been stuck behind the McLaren driver, so this will be an opportunity for Oliver to maybe defend without DRS and see how that feels, as Tyler's been defending without DRS for quite a while now. As you cannot believe your eyes that Craig Hilton is only 3 seconds behind these lot, and he's made 2 pit stops already. So absolutely wonderful driving from the Mercedes driver. So the big question to ask still remains, when will these 3 give in? When will they say, listen, it's time to go into the pits? Oliver already creating a gap between him and Tyler, so I think Tyler's tires might be gone for, but he does stick out for another lap, so he's on lap 23 at the moment on those hards. So is Mark and Oliver. All 3 of these drivers on the medium, on the hard compound. I beg your pardon. As Mark looks for the opportunity to overtake Tyler, it does look like Tyler might be struggling for tyre wear at the current moment, so this is the perfect opportunity for the Alpine driver to overtake Tyler for that second position. A small spin there, losing the rear there on the corner exit, relics a 3-second time penalty. That makes things interesting, as Thomas is pulling away at the current moment. So Thomas is currently in the driving seat because the 3 drivers in front of him, except for Kagels, of course, still need to make a pit stop, so that will in effect put Thomas above them, so he will be in P2 position, and it does look like he's gaining time on Craigleton. So absolutely wonderful racing so far from everybody at the moment. At the current moment, from 13th place down to 17th are relatively far behind, as the top 3 is closing in on F1 Pro to overlap him. Thomas is making absolutely fast and huge gains on Craigleton. He's been driving so well, even that he's made the mistake at the start and losing his car and fighting his way back to 4th position with 2 pit stops. I need to raise my hand there for Craigleton as a driver of the day contender, even though he has started in 3rd, so technically he hasn't made up any places, but for the grit and the fight that the driver has put in, he can definitely pat himself on the back, as Lord Jinsey receives a 3-second time penalty, so that's not ideal for the Ferrari driver. So many penalties all along the grid. Craigleton technically in 2nd position as things stand with the time penalties, and Mark has decided, listen, this is enough now, I need to pit for new tires, and this puts him at advantage compared to the 2 drivers above him, because there will be a relatively big gap for him to have a fantastic outlap as he takes his pit stop, and it does look like it is a smooth one. So Mark will be looking for the undercut opportunity, as Boss Membrane and Zach Zeke will be overtaking him. Sorry, it's not Boss Membrane, it's MJB there on the track data, so my apologies for that mistake, but this will be an opportunity for Mark to possibly get the best outlap he can to gain time on Oliver and Tyler, as Thomas has overtaken Craigleton for 3rd position. So Thomas is well on his way, as it does look like a few drops are falling. So might this have been the conversation that these 2 drivers had with their race engineers, in quote, saying, listen, there's a few drops falling, must we try and stick it out until the conditions get too wet and then we pit for the last few laps. but it does look like there's a few drops falling, so this will make the race absolutely interesting, as there's a bit of contact with Tyler and Oliver there. Oliver will definitely not be enjoying that contact there, but that's hard racing. That's what makes this league absolute fun. Apologies for the voice break there, as I haven't reached puberty at this stage. It was a silly joke. Okay, so we're still on track here with Tyler. So Tyler is looking for vengeance on Oliver, as he's got a 3-second time penalty. And Oliver just all over the place, losing the rear as he exits all these corners. So that's not the best thing, as it does look like there's a problem with Lord Kinsey, as there was a caution raised there. Not quite sure whether maybe just have spun a bit. But the rain is definitely falling, so this is making the conversation very interesting. Tomas will be looking to overtake these drivers before the track conditions change. And when the track conditions change, you want to be in front to have that track position, so that you can be all set for the duration of the race. As we are lap 27 with Tomas in P3 at the current moment. Remember, he did have that pit stop, so in effect he is actually 25 seconds in front of these two drivers, but that's where the rain comes into play. So when the track conditions change, these two drivers can take the opportunity to put on those intermediates and see the race out for the duration, and that will make Tomas negative, because he's been fighting so hard to get back to where he belongs in P1 with a wonderful qualifying session from him. So he'll be looking to overtake these two drivers before the conditions change, where if he does not take the opportunity to overtake, he will be losing track position. He will be in third position going into the pit lane, and that will put him at a disadvantage compared to these two drivers. It's already so difficult to overtake at the Hungary ring, but it does look like he's got the better exit and contact with Tyler, and that's the race over for Tomas. That's a terrible accident there. It's definitely not something that Tyler would have wanted. Not quite sure if he maybe lost control of his car while he was trying to get it under control, but he has suddenly cut the line there on the Red Bull driver, ultimately costing him his race. So Tyler did receive a 10-second time penalty for severe collision. I'm not quite sure whether that was deliberate. I highly doubt whether that's the case. Tyler is not your unfair type of driver, so I think he might have lost control of his car, and he might have just struggled to gain that control back, which basically left him to cut the line as Tomas tried to overtake. But that's unfortunate for the Red Bull driver. He is out of the session, which is the fourth retirement of the race. Safety car is deployed, so that's gonna make things interesting, because the conditions do look like they're still okay for the slicks at the moment, but one lap or 2 laps behind the safety car might change the equation absolutely tremendously. But the 10-second time penalty given to Tyler is not what he has wanted, because now the grid will be forming up again, which ultimately means that he will basically be in P16, and that is not ideal for the McLaren drivers. Maybe just take a look here at the penalty. So yeah, you'll see that it's 13 seconds for Tyler, so that's a lot of penalties that was a lot of penalties to deal with. Tomas expressing his frustration as he promised that that would have been the win, but accident not happen. So that will definitely be an incident for the stewards to look at. Tyler will have to do some explaining there. As I almost want to say, I think with the accident of Thomas, the advantage might be in the hands of Craigleton. So let's say Craigleton gets a great restart here. He might take the win here, and given the fact that he started in P3, which is where he usually ends in qualies, if not the pole position, but dropping down to P19, making two pit stops, fighting his way back to the top of the leaderboard. I mean, that's just insane racing. We are nearing to the end of the race, so it might as well serve some purpose to just note the mentions of the drivers that are in contention for driver of the day as things stand. So definitely a shout out to Oliver. He's been consistent right throughout the race. Oliver has been absolutely focused, he's been dialed in, and he's just been sending it the entire race. So that's definitely a shout for driver of the day. And then you've got Craigleton. One would argue, but Craigleton has made that big mistake at the start by dropping down to P19. But I mean, guys, we need to give credit where credit is due. Craigleton has pulled himself back from P19 up until P3, made two pit stops already. But the driver of the day will definitely depend on how these drivers adapt to the rainy conditions. I do not think these slicks will hold up until the end. I'm not sure whether they're already looking at an opportunity to maybe make a pit stop for the wet tires, or will they ultimately try to keep their cars on track. And then we've got to give a honorable mention to Muck as well. Muck has been into the deep of it for the entirety of this race. He's been battling neatly, he's been battling well. So definitely a shout out to Muck as well for a possible driver of the day. And then you also cannot rule out Boss Membrane. Boss Membrane has also been driving absolutely cleanly. He's been catching up to 2-3 second gaps in front of him, and just wonderful driving from the Kicksauber. So those will be the honorable mentions for driver of the day, as Tyler almost loses his car and Tyler goes into the pit lane. So will this be the race deciding move from Tyler with a 13-second time penalty? But Relix has followed him into the pit lane. So these two drivers are fitting on intermediates, and this is where things get exciting, everyone. A few drivers now on intermediate tires. We've got Boss Membrane already on 3-lap old mediums, intermediate. So this is gonna be a very interesting race. You have to remember that Oliver has not stopped yet. So that also puts him at a disadvantage, unfortunately, because he does need to make the pit stop. He does need to make sure he raced on two different compounds. That's the rules of Formula 1. So Oliver will need to look to make a pit stop, and unfortunately I think if you had to ask my opinion, I think the previous lap would have been the time to do it. So Craigleton also on the hard tires. It does not look like the conditions are too wet at the current moment, but it might be worth the shout that the intermediate drivers do have the advantage at the moment. As we go through the grid, we've got Boss Membrane, Jocks, Apex, James, Relix, Ryan, all on intermediate. And I beg your pardon, Tyler has opted to stay on slicks, and he's and he went onto the soft tyre. That's a very interesting call. Bunch of mixed emotions, mixed opinions for all these drivers. Got Craigleton on 26 lap, all the hard tyres. He does not have to pit again, so it's just a matter of keeping the car on track. As Oliver will be looking for the ultimate restart. He might want to look if he can catch Craigleton off guard here. Might take it off to the finish line, and he goes, and he does catch Craigleton off guard, as Craigleton has lost that time behind Oliver. As we look at what the scenario is behind, as it does not look like there's too much going on in terms of battling, just clean racing, and that's what we want to see for the final 4 laps of this race, as the rain is falling down but heavier than a few laps ago. So is the intermediate drivers onto something, as there's a crazy blending with the ghost of Boss Membrane, and oh no, I apologize, it's MJB who is overlapped, I believe, so it might be him. But yeah, back to the pick of the action, as Will Askew is on the soft tires and he is in P2 now. So the 2 Racing Bulls in the first 2 positions. Wonderful racing between these 2. Will funny pun, but anyway, will he look to take the race win, as he does make contact with Oliver, and Oliver would not have enjoyed that at all, but Oliver still needs to make the pit stop. So Will is currently in P1 position. Will he take the win of the race? And that would be the story of the day, everybody. Will was absolutely nowhere. I wouldn't say absolutely nowhere, but I mean, he hasn't been in those positional fights where he was fighting for P3 or P2 or P1. He's been fighting there in the midfield, and the next moment he's in the first position. No time penalties for him, of course. Dox moves to second, so it does look like the drivers on the older and wet tires are struggling a bit. Mark is also in the mix for podium places at the moment, but Will is absolutely flying. He's just absolutely setting this grid apart with his 4-lap old soft tires. He is a running now for the race win, and that's a race win that I would never have predicted. The 2 Racing Bulls are making absolute gains on the constructors with this P1, P4 finish, should it remain as is, but it is Zach Zeke and Craigleton. Something has happened to Craigleton. Might have lost a bit of grip there, but he moves down to P10, so that would be an Oliver as well, but Oliver has made the pit stop as he should before this lap started at least, so Oliver drops down. But Will Askew, he is going for the race win. A big shout out to my teammate for the podium division. It's absolutely wonderful racing from the Racing Bull, who will be in the McLaren on Fridays in the podium division. So these 2.7 seconds in front of Jox. Jox has a time penalty, Mark has a time penalty, so the only person that will need to try and stay ahead of is Zach Zeke at this current moment. But as things stand, Will is well on his way to a victory in this race. So this is absolutely wonderful racing from the Racing Bull. Absolute credits and shout outs to Will. As there's a caution on sector 2, as Mark has lost it. It looks like Mark has lost it. Mark and Craigleton is absolutely nowhere. There might have been contact between the 2, but that's a big drop, and suddenly F1 Pro finds himself into 8th position. The McLaren's finding themselves back into the points. Tyler, remember, also has a as a penalty. Relix moves up into P3, so Relix also putting his neck out there. But Will is absolutely flying. Does look like Jox is catching up a bit, so you will need to look out. Luckily he's got the buffer of the penalties, but Will is on his way for a race victory. Sector 3, Portion 4, I believe that's Oliver. Not quite sure what happened to Oliver there, but Oliver has absolutely lost his race. Fragelton has absolutely lost his race. All the shoutouts for the driver of the day has dropped themselves out. So that's absolutely crazy. A crazy ending to this race as Jox is looking to overtake Will maybe in this final sector. Will just needs to keep this car on track now. He is 3 seconds ahead of Jox. If you take into consideration the penalty that he has, he does lose a bit of grip. It does look like the conditions are suiting the intermediate drivers a bit more now. But all he does need to do now is to finish this race, remain composed, and see whether he can take this P1 position. And they will go for the line here, and it will be Jox in first, but will ask you is the winner of round 1 here in Hungary. Relix taking 3rd position, the podium position. So that's absolutely great racing from the Racing Bull. I think you will be very thrilled with the race he has put in. He came from nowhere. He was absolutely almost done for, and all of a sudden we've got Will in first position, and Will has taken the win here in Hungary. So that was absolutely wonderful racing. Before we conclude this stream and this race, let's just take this opportunity to look at the 3 drivers on the podium positions. Bear in mind there's still a driver of the day point to be delivered, as I will be announcing it shortly, as it's a wonderful win for the Racing Bull. He's done absolutely well. Shout out to Relix as well for making that podium position. Absolutely wonderful from the Racing Bull. So that basically concludes everything. We thank everybody who will be looking at the stream later on or who are currently viewing. We thank everybody for visiting, and that will be a wrap. It does not look like it's taking me to the loading screen of the leaderboard. But to conclude this race, it's been absolute fun. It was a great qualifying session from Tomas, and ultimately it was the cherry on the cake for the Red Bull driver, as there was a collision between him and Tyler in the McLaren, and then obviously the conditions started to change where the rain was falling and everybody was in a 50-50 type of situation, whether they should put on the intermediate tires or should they remain on slicks. Will Askew has fitted on the slicks before the conditions changed, and all of a sudden he found himself in the front of the race. He finished in front, and that's why Will Askew in the Racing Bull will be taking my driver of the day point for this race. I thank you all for watching. I thank you all for the future watchers. But for the time being, this will be goodbye. Thank you, everybody.